I open up the cat carrier and I pull my cat out by the tail and swing the cat back and bash it over my opponent's head, and then I win the match. And I remember Eric Bischoff going, "I love it." He goes, "I love it."
Whenever you do interviews, you don't seem very fond of your WCW run and the stuff that happened when you were there, but to kind of set this question up, you know, when you got to WCW, the Montreal Screwjob had happened, you were the biggest star in wrestling because you just left and they knew you'd been screwed and all that kind of stuff. And next question was, if you could ever redo your first storyline in WCW, what would you do? So if you go back in time, if Eric Bischoff had said to you, okay, Montreal's just happened, but you can choose how you come in and what happens, what would you have done?
Well, I mean, being really honest, I would have done anything but what they did do. I mean, you couldn't have had a shittier entrance into a company. They were so... Eric Bischoff, I've said it too many times, knew nothing about wrestling. He was an absolute imbecile. And Vince Russo was the same thing, and there's a lot of guys that think they know wrestling, but they don't know anything. Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff, they're just guys that, I don't know how they even got, somehow they got control of telling wrestlers how to wrestle, but neither one of them knew anything about wrestling. And if I could have taken control of things and wrote my own entrance, and I would have come in and wrestled Hulk Hogan like right away. And I don't know that I would have beat him, but I would have done something. Maybe we would have had a great match. But I think that it was a match that everyone wanted to see, and it would have been the best match Hulk Hogan ever had for sure.
So, just to kind of be fair, so like Eric Bischoff and a couple other people have said a criticism was that your heart wasn't really in it when you came in after Montreal. Is there any validity to that, or do you think that's just bullshit?
That's so bullshit. The truth is that when I left after the screw job and punching Vince and the way I left, you couldn't leave in a bigger mushroom cloud behind you. The whole thing was like it was so big, and I had so much momentum going into WCW. I had basically beaten every star they had. I had beaten Undertaker at SummerSlam. I had beaten Austin at WrestleMania 13. I had beat everyone every match. I beat everybody, even Shawn. You could argue that the screw job I never really lost. You know, I had so much momentum from a WCW standpoint. I had beaten all the top stars that were in WWF. I was standalone and champion, ex-champion from WWE. I had so much momentum going in, and I was nothing but money. I could have drawn money with so many guys, and anybody that wanted to draw money with me, like from Sting to Flair to, you know, but they didn't know what they were doing. Eric Bischoff brought me in, and they had me be the referee, and then they had, if you watch that stupid match, that's what it was. Supposed to be a fast count, 1, 2, 3, and you're supposed to screw Sting or something like that. But if you watch it, he didn't do a fast count. He did a 1, 2, 3. It was like totally fair, and I jump in the ring like, bullshit, that's bullshit, and I punch him and knock him out and throw him out of the ring and all that, and I'm going to be the referee. It was such a stupid... I remember we came back to the dressing room, and I go, it's supposed to be a fast count. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot, you know. And it was like, it was so lousy. I remember going like, what do the English wrestlers do? They do this one. You know, like, it was just the worst, and it never got better. That was as good as it got. You know, it's a shame because there was a lot of great talent there. There was so many great wrestlers, and I would always go to Eric Bischoff and I go, put me with Benoit, or put me with Booker T, or put me with Rey Mysterio, or Jericho, or any. There was all kinds of guys. I named everybody I could think of. Like, you're not doing anything with so-and-so, let me work with him. No, you can't work with him because he's working. He always had, Eric Bischoff had a million excuses why you couldn't do any idea that made any sense. I would go to Eric every day and go, how about this? Let me work with so-and-so. And he would come up with some bullshit reason why that wouldn't work. Like, oh, well, he's already working with somebody else. And he didn't even know. Eric Bischoff was like that guy in Wizard of Oz behind the curtain making all the noise. And, you know, he didn't know anything about wrestling, but he was in charge, you know. And it's a shame because at that time, WCW and WWE both had two really strong television shows, and it was such a great leverage for wrestlers of both companies to, when you left WCW, you could automatically end up in WWE, and if you left WWE, you could automatically end up in WCW, and you could mix all the matches together and come up with all kinds. It was great for fans. I think people loved the two shows on opposite channels, and I'm not sure if it was like that over here. But it was so much potential for the wrestlers to finally really make some serious money. Because I know I went, in going to WCW, I made pretty serious money. I remember getting huge checks every week and going, these guys are so stupid, they pay me all this money and they don't do anything with me. They'd fly me down to, I'd fly first class on a first class airfare from Calgary all the way to somewhere like Atlanta, connecting through. And when I landed, I had a luxury rental car, like a Lincoln or a Cadillac or whatever you could rent from. But it was always a full-on luxury car. I flew first class. I stayed at a first-class hotel. I never even paid for hotels or anything. It was great. And I was picking up, I think I used to get checks every week for, I think my weekly check was $250,000 every week. It was like huge, huge money and big, it was like really great, yeah, drinks were on Bret. And it was just a shame that we had such an idiot in charge of it all because he didn't know what he was doing, and 6 months later, or a year later, or 2 years later, they were completely out of business. And it was like, the match with Hulk Hogan never happened, could have happened, but I believe that the reason WCW died was because Eric Bischoff was listening to Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan only had ideas for Hulk Hogan. And the only idea he had for Hulk Hogan was Hulk Hogan wins everything. And that was the only idea that Hulk Hogan could come up with. And Bischoff, I have a funny story I always tell about Bischoff because I remember I was actually sarcastic. I said, he came and he goes, I think I said something in the ring about I was actually, because they sent me out to the ring to have another interview about nothing. Like, who am I talking about? Like, we don't know who you're working with, and we don't know what you're doing. So just come out. You're going to go out. You're going out. You're on now. Go out. And I'm like, what am I talking about? And I ended up going out in the middle of the ring, and I said something about my cat. That the only fan I had left was my cat at home named Smokey. And I remember I came back, and I said it as sarcasm in the ring, basically to Eric and everyone in the back, like, because I got nothing to talk about. I'm going to talk about my cat. And so when I came back through the curtain, Eric Bischoff goes, I loved it. I loved it. He goes, I love that part about your cat. And I was like, I said, you know what we could do? And it came to me all in a second. I said, I could start bringing, every night I'll come out to the ring with my cat in a cat carrier. And I'll set the cat in the corner, and I'll it'll be a real cat. It'll be like my real cat in the carrier. And every time I wrestle, I got the cat in my corner. But I said, we'll have one match where we get a stuffed toy cat, like a teddy bear cat, and we'll unzip it, put a zipper on it, and I'll put a big giant brick inside the cat. And then we'll have someone like Sting get me in a sharpshooter or a scorpion or something, and I'm like trying to reach the ropes, and I open up the cat carrier, and I pull my cat out by the tail and swing the cat back and bash it over my opponent's head, and then I win the match. And I remember Eric Bischoff going, I love it. He goes, I love it. And I remember thinking, it's a horrible idea or a silly idea, but it's still better than anything anyone else has come up with around here. And that's kind of what you dealt with there in that company. Idiot.